What up, world? This your homeboy Wordplay TJ, and I'm back with another video for you. This time around, I'm going to talk to Kyle from Indie on the Move, a website for booking your shows. Stay tuned. So, all right, Kyle, it is great to finally meet you. I've been using Indie on the Move for so many years, and what I want to do first is kind of introduce what this platform is to the listeners and the viewers, and then if you can elaborate on that would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, TJ.
No problem. So from my understanding, Indie on the Move is a booking website, not just regular venue booking, but college booking. You can do press and other things from Indie on the Move. And it was kind of started by you and your brother. So Kyle and Brian Weber, you guys were in a band called Zelazoa.
Well, yeah,
this website popped
now
up.
We still play in a band. It's just a different band. But
okay.
Yes, that is the band that we used to play in that led to the creation of the site for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were in a band, Zelazoa, created the site, and then all of a sudden, was there an instant boom from it, or did it kind of take some time to bubble up?
I mean, it certainly took some time and like a lot of grassroots promotion when we initially launched the site. Like anything else, your product can be as good as anything, but if nobody knows about it, then it's really not going to grow. But I think, for us, it was, I think timing, certainly helps. And I mean, timing helps with everything. But we ultimately launched the site, and unbeknownst to us, right as MySpace was kind of starting to take a nosedive. So for my band, Zelazoa, we went out, we did tons of tours. We did 600 shows in the span of 3 years. We toured the entire US. We went to Europe 2 times. And we used, a bunch of contacts that we had built up over the years, but then, MySpace had been, a pretty crucial element in that, musicians being able to talk to other musicians. And, I feel like it was kind of before musicians really started to flock towards Facebook. But MySpace started to take a nosedive. And, Facebook really wasn't exactly a marketplace for musicians to book shows. I mean, sure, you could talk to people, but it wasn't exactly like, okay, band-to-band communication or artist-to-artist communication, and just start searching people and you'll start booking shows. So when we launched it, people were starting to look for something other than MySpace. So that helped. But then even back then, MySpace, I would say it was still kind of an important platform for about a year. So at that point, we would just go through and we would reach out to a lot of people through the MySpace platform initially just to introduce them to the product that we had just launched. And then after about a year, we had built up a membership of about 10,000 people or so. And then that membership really started to help us spread the word. So word of mouth became a hugely important part of our promotional campaign. And then that just kind of came back to make sure the product is good enough that people want to tell other people about it.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. So what was the initial spark that said, for you and Brian, it said that I want to do this. I want to kind of take this on. Was it the demand that you needed as a band, or was it the demand from other people?
I would say it was probably more so a demand from other people and us looking for additional outlets when we weren't on the road. Like as we were building out the initial platform, and after it launched for about a year or so, we were like still in the thick of our touring days. So we kind of like finished that touring up like I think it was March 2019, or I'm sorry, 2009. Geez, seems like forever ago. So initially it was just kind of like, we've got all of this information that we've been building up over the years. And, we go into every new town that we're going to, and people just keep having the same conversation. Hey, how do you book shows? What places do you book at? What are the good spots here? What are the good spots there? And then it just seemed like we had the information and the means to kind of start this conversation online. And then we took it, we published it, we made it interactive. And at that initial point, you kind of elaborated a little bit earlier on about some of the features that we offer that are not just traditional venue bookings. Well, initially it just started as a music venues database. And then it just kind of grew from there out of demand. People were talking about colleges or like festivals or, hey, I need press resources or radio resources. And it was like, all right, well, we got the platform. Let's, kind of build it out as best as we can. And then by making things interactive, we allow people to have input. We allow people to offer updates, just kind of keep us informed as far as, what's going on with all of these contacts. Initially it was keep track of 1,000 music venues. And now we've got 9,000 venues and we've got 1,000 colleges and we've got probably, several hundred festivals on there and, press and radio. And so the amount of information just kind of added up quite a bit.
That's really dope. I know from my experience using the website, back before, and you're talking about the MySpace time when that was on a decline, I started booking shows locally. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, but I was booking shows by like phone and like rudimentary emails, as best as I possibly can, find the information on people's websites. And it was just all over the place. So this tool has really been good for me for booking shows. And I can't count the number of shows that I've successfully booked versus the ones that I've done on my own that kind of surpass the numbers that I was getting by myself. Awesome.
Well, I love to hear it. Yeah. Obviously having information out there is going to help artists to be able to, create more opportunities and to grow. But, one of the things that we do run into a lot of times, especially with maybe some artists that haven't been growing with us as the platform has been growing, they come to Indie on the Move and they're like, oh my gosh, there's too much information here. I don't know what to do with this. I know that I like what's here, but I don't know how to use it. So then we kind of, as I mentioned, we built onto the initial platform. And so we started offering consulting services. So, if there are people that come to the site and they're not sure what to do or how to do it, we can kind of walk people through the process as well.
I remember consulting with you.
Yeah. I mean, years ago at this point, 2014, if I'm not mistaken, maybe.
Yeah. Right around
there. Yeah. A while ago.
But it was so insightful for me. It was extremely insightful because it helps me understand what people were looking for when it came to booking shows. I think being in a genre of hip hop, even though it's popular for, say, streaming or mainstream type of applications, it's not always the best situation for venue owners. They don't always agree with hip hop being the best thing for their venue. And so you gave me some tips and some strategies that would help me book those shows. What are some of those tips that you feel like you can give to not just hip hop, but anybody that is looking to book shows when they're starting from zero? Yeah.
I mean, one of the most important things is just trying to create a value. I think there are some artists out there where they feel like, well, I'm an artist. I created music. The music is my value. And yes, I mean, it is valuable and it's a fantastic accomplishment. But from a venue's standpoint, they're getting however many emails in a day. It could be 25, could be 50, could be 100 if it's a really high demand venue. And, these guys, every single person that's reaching out to them is offering the same thing, music. Congratulations. But it's like, if you really want to be the one that gets the show, and there are only so many dates to offer, you got to create additional value beyond just offering entertainment. And so, is that value just the music? Does that person love your music that much? Okay, maybe. But why put all your eggs into the one basket? Other value is going to be, people, bodies. I mean, do you have a way of marketing this show? Do you have a way of making it successful? Or, for some venues, as you were kind of saying, there are certain styles of music that they just don't want, or they're hesitant about booking. And so find the right venues that are going to work with your style of music, which, again, we've got the venues database. You can sort and search everything by genre, by venue size, to make sure that you are reaching out to the right people. But even beyond that, you want them to feel comfortable with what the show is going to be. I've done a lot of consulting with hip hop artists, with metal artists, and punk. I mean, it's kind of similar situations. Anything that can be construed as a little bit more aggressive, possibly.
Yeah.
The first thing that people think about is like, okay, well, what kind of people are coming to this show, and is my venue the environment for that sort of thing, or do I have to worry about things getting messed up? That's like their first thought. But then, even in dealing with some of these artists, it's like, well, okay, I get it. I mean, you can have a death metal band versus a metal band. You can have a gangster rap artist versus a melodic hip hop artist. And so, when you're reaching out to these people, one of the most important things is to really try, especially if you're in one of those genres of music, and unfortunately, and fortunately for people that are in pop and country and rock, people don't jump to those harsh conclusions right off the bat. But if you are in one of those genres, try to find a way to really give people an idea of the type of audience that you're going to be bringing in. Maybe you do hip hop, but your audience is 25 to 35-year-old working professionals that love pop music. I mean, it's a completely different thing. And so for artists reaching out to venues, you got to be able to describe what you're offering. You got to be able to sell it. You got to be able to create value, because there's a whole lot of artists that want the same thing all the time. And if you're not helping yourself to stand out, you're just going to be spinning your wheels, sending out email after email and wondering why you're not getting bookings. But then, even beyond just that initial contact, something that a lot of people overlook is just the sheer fact of persistence. And you have to be. You don't just expect that you're going to send out one round of emails and you're going to land, 20 shows. It's not that simple. I wish it was. But sometimes you got to spend a little bit more time. You send an email out, then you make a phone call to follow up on that email. Then you send another email. Then maybe it's a Facebook post or a social media thing. Depending on the venue, depending on what they're looking at, depending on kind of the feedback that you're getting throughout the process. So you got to be willing to put the work in if you want to see the results.
Yeah, you got to be able to take your booking opportunities and look at it as business. You at that point, when you're booking shows, when you're promoting your work and all these other things, for everybody that's paying attention to this video, at the point where that switches over, it's all about the business. It's about the marketing, the promotion, and everything that you put into that, and possibly even the liability that you might be bringing to another entity or company. So you have to really think about all of those things.
Yeah, exactly. Like from the artist mode to the business mode. What is the catchphrase now that people use? Musicpreneur, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
But just from another business angle of it, it's music and touring can be very different from other businesses in that, okay, you pick your market and then you build that one market. But a lot of musicians, it's cool, I've got my home market, but I can't keep playing my home market constantly. It's not like you're a brick and mortar shop that you're just going to build the one spot. You got to build all of these different markets. And what a lot of people lose sight of is when you go to the new market, the value that you created in that other market is not the same. This is a whole new thing. And so you might not be starting from zero, but you're not starting from where you left that other market either. And so that might mean you play a free show, you play a door deal show. One of the things that I hear from artists, on a regular basis is, what kind of guarantees are you getting when you go on the road? And it's like, well, again, you got to think about your value. What are you bringing to that venue? What have you accomplished? Do they want to make that guarantee to you when they don't feel the same guarantee on their end of people being there, the show being successful? Not to say that touring artists shouldn't be getting enough to cover their expenses, but there is a trade-off, and sometimes you got to build it a bit before you can go back to that market to get the guarantee. right? Build the market experience. And sometimes it's not the perfect venue the first time through, but that first venue is the one that leads you to the second venue, which then finally leads you to the venue that you really wanted initially. But you got to have the experience in that market to really get there.
Yeah.
And so again, you got to put the work in.
I agree 100%. So if there's a touring act and say this act is starting at 0, right? How do they go from getting to a place where they have no draw, they have no way of guaranteeing what they're going to be paid? How do they build that leverage up from 0?
Is this initially for, like, are you talking about that artist working with their local market, or they're leaving their local market, maybe they built something there, and now you're talking about building a new market?
Yeah. Artists are leaving a local market because the scenario that in my mind, like in a streaming world, I feel like a lot of artists are more hesitant to step out and go do shows in general.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason for touring for a while there, especially on the independent level, was to go and reach new people. And now the internet has made those people, in a way, accessible without you ever having to leave.
Right.
So I get that.
How would they do that if they expect to step out? Because I know starting off, you're not going to have any fans outside of your market.
Well, I mean, the first thing that I generally tell people to do is that be smart about your planning. And right off the bat, I mean, for the most part, everybody's got some family that lives somewhere else. Everybody's got a friend that moved away, or college buddies that you were in one spot and they all split off. So the first thing that you always want to do is think about where you already know some people, and use that as a means to start your branching out, and especially at the very beginning. If you haven't done it, try and go somewhere where you've got some familiar faces, where you've got a free place to stay, where you've got, a free meal or two, or whatever it is, and somebody there on the ground that can maybe help you get a handful of people out to those shows. And, more often than not, it's going to be markets that aren't too far away, because, well, you got to work or drive to get to those ones that are that much further away. So, plan that out initially. And then, so that'll help. Right. You've got some people on the ground in these markets, and maybe it's not, 15, 20, 30 like you built up in your local market, but hey, 5's better than 0. That's for sure. Now, can you use that as a means to sell that venue on booking you? 5 isn't exactly an overwhelming number of people unless they're going to all go in and spend $100 a pop.
Can I interject for a second? What would be a good number for a venue?
Well, it's going to just depend on the size of the venue, for sure.
Right.
In my opinion, if you're saying, I mean, there's some venues where a weeknight show, let's say like in New York, where it's a smaller venue, you can bring out 10 people on a Tuesday. We can talk about it. I feel like less than 10, unless somebody is specifically saying, can you bring 5 people? Right. Less than 10, for the most part, I wouldn't bother saying anything. Just do the most promotion you can. More than 10, I would think about the size of the room, the night of the week. What are these people really looking for? A marquee venue that holds 300 people. I mean, you could still be telling them, hey, we can bring 30 to 50, and they're still going to be like, hey, it's a Friday night and we hold 300. That does nothing for me.
Right.
They're at loss at that point. But on the flip side, I mean, that venue, if you're like, okay, well, we can do 30 to 50. I can grab 2 other bands that can do 30 to 50, and I want to book a Monday. Well, all right, 150 people on a Monday doesn't sound too bad. And so, you just got to kind of think about the scenario. Okay.
That helps a lot.
But yeah, so that, I guess, is a good segue into the thought that I wanted to finish there, which was building up those markets outside of your hometown. Sure, find some areas where you got a couple of people, but teaming up with other artists is one of the best ways to be able to do that. And it's going to be local artists from that area. So you can always look at the idea of building out shows. You contact the venue, then you sell the venue on you finding some locals to put on that bill, or maybe the venue wants to do the work for you. Great. Either way, first time you're heading out, one of the best things to do is make sure there are locals on that show. It's easier to have a local on than to put all of your eggs in the basket of this venue's got a guaranteed crowd, right? I mean, those venues are highly coveted and tough to find anymore.
Speaking of that, when you're adding people on to the show, right, local artists and things of that nature, what's the best lineup order, knowing that you're a transplant, so to speak, from that area? I noticed that last is not good.
No, as enticing as it is to be the headliner, even if it's your tour, you don't want to be the headliner. Mm-hmm. Right? The only person that should be the headliner is the person that's bringing the most bodies out to the show, whether that's a local person, a traveling person, whatever it is, because that means the most people will stay at the show for longer. When you're the traveling artist, you always want to be in the middle. Mm-hmm. Right? Sandwich yourself between a couple of people that can bring out the crowd, because then you'll get a little bit of overflow from the artist before, you'll get a little overflow from the artist after. And, that's the most important thing for building a crowd on the road when you're going out and performing. And it's you need people in the seats. If they're not there to be won over by you, then mission has not been accomplished, which is build a fan base.
So on the theme of shows, do you think it's a good recommendation to, say, style your show or have a theme around your show, knowing that you're going into a market that's unknown to you? Say, for example, not necessarily centered around a holiday, but if a holiday's coming up, do you think you should do a Halloween show or, a 4th of July kind of show?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it just depends on how you're going to kind of factor it into the marketing and the promotion that you're going to do. What I would say, even if you're going to do a 4th of July show, don't do it on July 4th if you can avoid it. Right. Because the fireworks take priority unless you're playing under the fireworks. Otherwise, I mean, I've played 4th of July shows in clubs, and it's like, yeah, man, usually this place is filled, but sorry, everybody went to see the fireworks. It's like,
exactly,
man, it's a holiday. Exactly. We're like, Christmas or Halloween. It's people get preoccupied with what's going on around that holiday a lot of times, and especially if it's an artist that they're not familiar with. They're not necessarily looking for, oh man, it's Halloween, I want to go out and see an artist I've never heard of before. Usually in those situations, you're going to have that band or that venue that is known for typically, they do the Halloween show every year, or they do the Christmas show or the day after Christmas show or whatever it is. And so generally those shows those can be good. But it ends up being for artists that are pretty well established in that market a lot of times. And then if you end up playing on that same night somewhere else, you're competing with that show that does really well. So it makes things a little bit harder.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to come up with a creative way of marketing things, every little bit helps for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to kind of move forward from this concept and talk about college booking. I'm familiar with NACA and APCA, and I know that there's for those people that don't know what those entities are. They're basically college booking conferences where every college booker or a lot of college bookers come to a venue nationwide in different regions, and they hear acts perform or set up a booth to pitch themselves to be booked on college tours or for college shows in general.
Right, for college shows. Mm-hmm.
So knowing that you have a college touring feature on the site, have you seen it do well even though these people aren't going to these tour, to these conferences?
I have definitely been in touch with Indie on the Move members that have seen success using our college database. Now, one of the things that people can certainly keep in mind is that every college is not a part of NACA or APCA, right? So for a college to be a member of one of those organizations, they have to pay, right? NACA and APCA get paid on both sides. The musicians and the members, they pay, the colleges pay, then they bring everybody together. Now, a lot of your big universities are going to be a part of one of the two, but there's a lot of smaller universities that do have a budget that they can pay out for college shows as well. And so, what I typically deal with, or have heard from our members, is that working with the smaller universities tends to yield better results.
Okay.
But like at the same time, if you think about it like venue bookings, right? You're an artist that's going out on tour and you want to get your foot in the door in a brand new city. Well, you're not pitching to the room that holds 1,000 people.
Right.
And I get how enticing it is to go and play that huge state university, but maybe that's not the one when you're doing it independently on the grassroots level. I mean, maybe it's the community college that's down the road that's got, $300 to throw you, or $400 or whatever it is. But smaller colleges do still have a budget, and they can be solicited directly. Now, NACA and NAPCA colleges can also be solicited directly if you have the information, which we do provide it. But I would say there's a lot of colleges that will book a majority of their showcases through that. Not necessarily all of them, but a majority.
A majority, yeah. Understood. And that's been, I used to work in college radio.
Okay.
And so I know that in most cases, the people that you're reaching out to are always different.
Well, that's one of the trickiest. Semester. That's the trickiest part about the whole thing, is that there's really not a solid way for creating long-lasting relationships with college bookings. It's like 1 year you could be super successful, and then the next year, start over.
It's a dud. Right?
Yeah, and because all of these people change, it's not just that they're changing. It could very well be that like one student programming board, the 1 year loves indie rock, and the next year they love hip hop, and the next year they love country. And so that throws an additional wrench into things. It's not like a traditional venue where, this venue can do anything, or this venue specializes in country. Even if they get a couple of new bookers, they're not going to change that usually, for the most part. But with the college programming boards, it's like, it becomes victim to whoever's in charge of bringing in those programs. And that could be a complete shift from the year before.
Yeah. So I want to wrap with talking about some of the premium features that you offer. I know this college touring database is available for people to purchase. I believe it's on a yearly plan, right? Yeah,
that is an annual subscription. It is $79.99 for a year. We also offer a premium subscription, which basically is elaborated booking information for our music venues database, as well as advanced, filtering and functionality. So with the music venues, it's a way for you to be able to go in and say, all right, not only do I want to be able to search geographically, but you can search by multiple genres. You can search by night of the week. You can search by venue size, cover music versus original music. And, obviously having all of these additional filters will make the entire process of finding venues, reaching out to appropriate venues, that much quicker, that much more effective. So premium subscription, college subscription, and then beyond those two, the premium subscription is available monthly or annually.
Okay.
Then beyond those two, we offer what we call, I guess it's just a whole bunch of different consulting services, but all of them kind of come together in a package that we call Do It Together Tour Booking. And so that one is going to kind of involve a phone call consultation. It's going to have somebody on the Indie on the Move team, usually it's me, going through the presentation for the artist, the booking pitch, the online presence, putting together some sort of smart, intelligent plan based off of what that artist has already been able to accomplish or what they were hoping to do. Sometimes it's not necessarily the same thing. And then we have a means to basically streamline the booking process. So while we don't necessarily offer a full booking agent role with Indie on the Move, we offer consulting services. We offer the ability to streamline the booking process through our resources, through our functionality. And so, really, I would say on the site, you can approach it with, one of two different ways. There's DIY, where you go in, you take advantage of the resources that we make available and you do it yourself. How much of your time do you want to save in the process of that will, kind of, I guess, dictate how much money you want to spend, whether it's a premium subscription, whether it's a college subscription, whatever it is. But there's a lot of info that you can find for free if you just want to, do the time and do the work. Otherwise, on the flip side of it, there's more of a, do it together premium, where somebody from Indie on the Move will kind of walk you through the process and make sure that what is going out is going to yield the best results possible.
Great. And what are some of the costs to those premium features? So
there's some a la carte consulting stuff. So you can just do a basic phone call. Let me just pull this up just so I'm not messing up any of these numbers. So you could just
flash it on the screen as well.
Cool. So you could do just like a basic booking pitch consultation. That's generally going to be via email. You send your pitch in, we evaluate it, we send you feedback. That's $150. We do a website evaluation. That's $130. We basically go through the site, make sure that things are where they should be. All the things that should be there are there. Things are easy to navigate, that sort of stuff. Then we offer phone call consultation. So it's $300 for an hour. It's $175 for 30 minutes. And generally those calls, we can kind of dive into whatever you want. So those are the a la carte. And then what we offer is our do it together tour booking services. And so that basically takes all three of those a la cartes and puts them together and offers them for a much smaller price. So to run with the DIT campaign, you do need to have a premium subscription. And then we break that campaign down into multiple parts. But the first part of it is the consultation and planning phase. And you get the phone call, you get the web evaluation, you get the booking pitch evaluation, as well as a whole bunch of other things. And that costs $325, right? And so you get all of that stuff.
It's very affordable.
I would like to think so as well. But then, and then beyond that, the second part of the campaign and the third part basically deal with us kind of helping people get emails out to appropriate venues and really just saving them time. Within the booking process, you got to get a lot of information out there. And really the question is, do you want to spend however many hours it takes sending out however many 100 emails to however many venues, in all of the cities that you want to go to? Or would you rather have somebody do it for you? And so again, it's kind of a time saver on our end, but all the while we are consulting, we're advising people so that what is going out is going to yield the results that people are hoping to see and hear.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for this site, this service, and everything that you're doing for independent musicians, because it's really great to see people that not only do music for a living, but also provide the services that other artists need. So that's really great to experience and to see. And I want to thank you for spending the time to sit with me.
My pleasure,
on the
TJ.
last note, is there anything that you wanted to share to the audience or promote to the audience to let them know about Indie on the Move or what you got going on with your other band?
Honestly, I feel like we did a pretty thorough job covering a lot of the main aspects of the site. I guess one basic thing that I can let people know is at the bottom of every single page, there's two really important buttons. One of them is a contact button. If you got any questions, click that button, fill out the form. That comes to me. I answer every single one of them, and I don't take a whole lot of time to get back to people. So if you got questions, please send them in. I'm happy to help. Otherwise, the other button that I feel is very important is one that just takes you to our main features page. And so that's going to give an outline of all of the main things. Again, people sometimes get to the site and they're like, oh my gosh, how do I find what I'm looking for? There's so much going on here. But at the bottom of the site, there's a button that says features. Click that and it'll give you a list of, I think there's about 9 of them or so, all of the main features, a link to that appropriate section of the site with a description of what that section does and offers. And so check that out. That's a really good spot to start familiarizing yourself with Indie on the Move. And then, if you are in a position where you need help, but you can't afford the consulting stuff, I get that. We have a blog. There's plenty of free information that's made available there. You can search by keywords. You can search by categories. Go through. I mean, we've got years of blogs posted on there now, and there's a lot of really good info from fantastic writers. I mean, we write a couple ourselves, but we get a lot of really awesome guest posts from musicians that have been out there and are doing it and are seeing great results, and are helping other people do it as well. So. Yeah. Don't feel like there's not something for you, because I feel like there's probably something for everybody on the site. It's just a matter of what section of the site is going to help you with what you want to work on right now.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for coming and having this talk with me. And it's been really insightful. It has helped me kind of elevate my mindset about it. Even though I've been with Indie on the Move for so long, it still is enlightening and helpful, and I want to spread that help to everybody that is watching. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and be sure to check out indieonthemove.com and give a shout out to Kyle and or Brian while you're there. If anybody has anything else, like I said, you can put it down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get back with you. So until next time, this is your homeboy Wordplay TJ. Peace. All right, so I know you came to watch this channel just to see this video, just to get this problem solved. What I do urge you to do is subscribe to this channel right over there. And then there's more videos on this page right now.